It was a cold, rainy evening in the small city of Redwood. The streets were quiet, and the sky was dark with thick clouds. People rushed home trying to escape the rain. But Daniel Carter walked slowly, hands in his coat pockets, thinking deeply. Daniel was a simple man. He worked as a mechanic in a small garage. He lived alone in a small apartment above the garage. He didn't have many friends, and his family lived in another city. But he was kind, honest, and always helped others. Today, he was looking for a birthday gift for his niece, Lily. She was turning 10 next week, and Daniel wanted to get her something special. He didn't have much money, but he always tried his best for her. She was the only person who truly made him smile. As he walked past old shops and closed stores, he noticed a small pawn shop at the corner of the street. Its windows were dusty, and the sign above the door was crooked. The lights inside were dim, but the door was open. Daniel had never seen this shop before. Curious, he stepped inside. A small bell above the door rang. "Hello?" Daniel said. The air inside was old and musty. Shelves were full of strange items, old clocks, jewelry, tools, and toys. At the back, behind a glass counter, sat an old man with thick glasses and a wrinkled face. He looked up and smiled slowly. "Looking for something special?" the old man asked in a soft voice. Daniel nodded. "A gift for my niece. She likes shiny things." The man pointed to a small tray of rings and bracelets. Daniel walked over and started looking. Most of them were plain, but one ring caught his eye. It was silver with tiny glowing lines running through it. It looked almost alive. "How much is this one?" Daniel asked. The old man leaned forward. "Ah, that one. Strange thing. Came in last week with some junk. Doesn't seem valuable, but it glows sometimes. I'll give it to you cheap, $10. Daniel smiled. It was perfect. "I'll take it." He paid, thanked the man, and walked out into the rain. The city looked different now, quieter, like the night was watching him. But Daniel didn't notice. He held the small box in his pocket, feeling happy. Maybe Lily would like the ring, even if it didn't fit. That night, Daniel sat in his apartment, fixing a broken toaster and drinking coffee. The ring sat on the table next to him. He picked it up and looked at it again. It was smooth and cold, but the glowing lines inside moved like liquid light. He turned it in his fingers. "Weird little thing," he muttered. Out of curiosity, he slid the ring onto his finger. The moment he did, everything changed. The ring glowed brightly, and a warm light covered his hand. He tried to pull it off, but it wouldn't move. Then it sank into his skin, vanishing completely. Daniel gasped and stood up, knocking over the chair. "What the hell?" he whispered, looking at his hand. Then a voice echoed in his mind. It was calm, gentle, and not human. Bond complete. Connection established. Daniel's eyes widened. "Who said that?" There was no one in the room. "Hello?" he shouted. "Is someone here?" No answer came from the room, but the voice returned in his head. "Do not be afraid, chosen one. The bond has been activated. Your presence has been received." Daniel shook his head. "I'm going crazy. This is a dream. Or maybe that coffee was too strong." He tried to ignore it. He went to bed, but sleep didn't come easy. He kept hearing the voice in his mind, soft and patient, like it was waiting for something. The next morning, Daniel woke up with a headache. He looked at his hand, but there was no sign of the ring. He checked the table, the floor, nothing. It had truly vanished. Maybe it was a dream, he said to himself. But when he entered the garage to start work, the voice returned, clearer this time. "You are now connected to Villari of Thalor. Speak your name." Daniel dropped his wrench. "What? Who are you?" The voice replied. "I am Villari, warrior of the 9th house, princess of the starbound flame. You have accepted the Xylarian marriage bond. Daniel froze. The what? The ring was a sacred item, a bonding relic. You placed it on your finger. That means the bond is complete. I didn't mean to. I thought it was just a ring. Intent does not break the bond. You are now my life mate. Daniel sat down slowly. This can't be real. But deep inside, he knew something was very real. He could feel a soft warmth in his chest, like someone was there with him. And the voice didn't sound like a dream. It sounded alive. What do you want from me? He whispered. I must come to you. We must meet. That night, strange lights appeared in the sky above the city. People said it was just northern lights or maybe a weather balloon. But Daniel knew better. Just after midnight, a soft humming sound filled the air outside his window. He opened the curtain and saw a glowing figure slowly descending in a beam of light. His heart pounded. A tall woman stepped out of the light. Her skin was soft blue, and her eyes glowed like stars. She wore armor that shimmered like crystal. She was beautiful and alien, and very real. Daniel opened the door. Valari, she looked at him and nodded. Daniel Carter, you have bonded with me through the ancient rite. I am here to honor the connection. He stared in shock. You're real. You're here. Yes, she said. And now we must complete the trial of unity. The bond must be accepted by both sides, or we will both face exile and disgrace. Daniel shook his head. But I'm just a mechanic. I'm no warrior, no prince. I didn't mean to do this. Valari stepped closer. The bond chose you. The ring is ancient. It does not make mistakes. Daniel looked at her eyes. For a moment, the fear faded. He didn't understand how or why, but he knew this was real. What happens now? He asked. She smiled softly. Now you come with me to Thalor, and we face the trials together. Daniel stood there, heart pounding, life changed forever. The simple ring he bought for $10 had opened a door to the stars, and to something even bigger than the galaxy, a connection that could shape the future. Daniel Carter stood in the doorway of his apartment, staring at the tall alien woman who called herself Valari. The cold night wind brushed against his face, but he didn't move. His mind was spinning. The woman in front of him wasn't human. She had glowing blue skin, silver-white hair that flowed like silk, and eyes that shined like tiny stars. Her armor looked like it was made from crystal and metal. It gave off a soft hum, like a quiet song in the air. Daniel spoke slowly. You came from space? Valari gave a small nod. Yes, I came from Thalor, my home planet. When the bond was completed, I followed the signal here. He rubbed the back of his neck. But I didn't mean to bond with anyone. I didn't even know it was a real ring. Valari stepped forward, calm and tall. Intent is not required. The ring is a sacred relic of the Xylarian Empire. It was made to choose, not just a partner, but a soul match. Daniel looked at his hand where the ring had disappeared. So now I'm married? Yes, she said. According to our law, we are life mates. Daniel laughed nervously. This has to be a dream. Valari raised an eyebrow. Do you dream often of glowing rings and alien princesses? Daniel shrugged. No. Usually I dream about fixing cars. That made Valari smile just a little. Then this is real. He looked at her closely. Why would someone like you bond with someone like me? You were chosen, she said softly. I do not fully understand it either. But the bond is alive. It does not pick by mistake. Daniel stepped aside. You want to come in? Valari nodded and entered his small apartment. She looked around with interest. It was a humble place. Tools on the table, a couch with old cushions, and the smell of engine oil in the air. "This is your home?" she asked. Daniel nodded. "Yeah, it's not a castle or anything, but it works." Valari sat down carefully on the edge of the couch. She looked too elegant for such a simple room. He sat across from her. "So, what happens now?" "We must undergo the unity trial," she explained. "It is the ancient test given to all bonded pairs. It proves that the bond is true and accepted by both sides." Daniel frowned. "And if we don't do it?" Valari's expression became serious. "We will both be dishonored. I will lose my rank. You will be seen as an oath breaker by my people. The bond cannot be ignored." He leaned back. "I just bought a ring. I didn't ask for this." "I know," she said quietly. "But fate has chosen, and now we must walk the path together." Daniel looked into her glowing eyes. There was no anger in her voice, no threat, just calm truth. "Okay," he said slowly, "but I don't even know where to begin." Valari stood. "Then come with me. We begin by going to Thalor." He stood too. "Right now?" "Yes. A ship is waiting outside your planet's orbit." Daniel stared at her, then at the night sky outside the window. His heart beat faster. "This is crazy." "Yes," she agreed, "but it is also real." He took a deep breath. "Let me grab my jacket." 1 hour later, Daniel stood in a hidden clearing in the forest outside the city. Above him, the stars sparkled like cold diamonds. Valari stood beside him, calm and glowing. A soft hum filled the air as a light appeared in the sky. It grew brighter and brighter until a sleek silver ship floated down silently. It looked like a giant wing made of metal and glass. The ship hovered just above the trees. A ramp opened, and a soft blue light spilled out. "This is really happening," Daniel whispered. Valari touched his arm gently. "Yes. Are you ready?" He looked at her and nodded. "Let's go." They walked into the light together. Inside the ship, everything felt strange and smooth. The walls shimmered with soft colors. The air smelled fresh, like flowers after rain. Small floating drones buzzed quietly, scanning them. Daniel looked around in awe. "This is wild!" Valari led him to a chair that adjusted perfectly to his shape. "You'll be comfortable. The journey to Thalor takes only 2 hours through subspace." 2 hours? To another planet? "Our travel technology is far beyond your world," she said. As the ship lifted off, Daniel felt only a slight pressure in his chest. Then, they shot through the stars. He looked out the window and saw Earth growing smaller behind them. His hands trembled. "I've never even left my city," he muttered. "Now I'm going to another planet." Valari looked at him kindly. "You are stronger than you think, Daniel Carter." He gave a nervous laugh. "You don't know me." "Not yet," she said, "but I will." Thalor was like nothing Daniel had ever seen. The planet was covered in floating cities. Massive towers stood on platforms that hovered above glowing forests and oceans of light. The skies were purple and filled with flying ships. Music and strange lights danced in the air. As they arrived, the ship docked at a large palace made of crystal and metal. Hundreds of beings stood in line, waiting to greet Valari. They were tall, proud, and dressed in ceremonial robes. Daniel stepped out beside her, and suddenly all eyes were on him. Whispers spread like wildfire. "Is that the one? A human? He looks so plain. He is unworthy." Daniel could feel their stares. He felt small and out of place. Valari raised her voice. "He is my bonded. By law, he is to be respected." The crowd quieted but didn't look pleased. A tall alien man in a long robe walked up. His face was stern. "Princess Valari, your choice shocks the Empire. A human mechanic? Truly? I did not choose, Valari said calmly. The bond did. The man looked at Daniel with disgust. He is soft, weak. He will not pass the trials. Daniel clenched his fists. You want to say that again, Sparkles? The crowd gasped, but Valari smiled slightly. He has fire, she said. The man scowled. Fire means nothing. The unity trial begins at dawn. If he fails, the bond will be broken and you will both be exiled. Daniel looked at Valari. No pressure, huh? She turned to him. Do not worry. I will guide you. You will not be alone. He nodded. Then let's do this. I didn't ask for it, but I won't back down. That night, Daniel was given a room inside the palace. It was large and full of strange, glowing objects. He couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the next day, about the trial, about the looks from the others. He stepped out onto the balcony. The sky was full of stars, and strange birds flew through the air. Valari joined him. Can't sleep? Nope, Daniel said. What if I mess this up? You won't, she said. The trial is not about strength, it is about truth. What kind of tests are we talking about? He asked. Tests of the heart, loyalty, courage, wisdom. Daniel sighed. Well, I'm no genius, but I know how to be loyal. I don't quit. That's why you were chosen, Valari said softly. Daniel turned to her. Why are you being so kind to me? She looked at him for a long moment. Because you are not like the others. You are honest, brave, real. And I see something different in you. He smiled a little. Thanks. I think I needed to hear that. She nodded. Rest now. Tomorrow we begin. As Daniel lay in the strange, glowing bed, he closed his eyes and whispered to himself, from a $10 ring, to an alien princess, to a trial on a glowing world. He smiled, nervous but curious. All right then. Let's see what happens next. The twin sons of Thalor slowly rose into the sky, casting golden light across the floating palace. A soft chime rang through the halls, calling everyone to the central court. Daniel Carter stood in front of a tall mirror, wearing strange clothes, made of silver threads and soft dark cloth. The outfit was made by Valari's people for the trial of unity. It felt light but strong. He took a deep breath and looked at himself. I look like a fancy waiter, he mumbled. The door opened behind him. Valari stepped in, dressed in ceremonial armor that shimmered in the light. Her face was calm, but her eyes watched him closely. You are ready? She asked. Daniel turned. No, but I'm here. She smiled slightly. That is enough. They walked together through long, glowing hallways. Guards and nobles stood along the sides, whispering as Daniel passed. Some were curious. Others were cold and silent. They reached the trial arena, a large open circle floating above the clouds. The floor was made of smooth stone, and strange patterns moved beneath their feet, like flowing water. Around the circle stood Thalorian judges, tall, beings with glowing staffs. The high judge stepped forward. He was old, with silver skin and long white robes. His voice was deep and powerful. Valari of Thalor, Daniel Carter of Earth, you stand before us to prove the truth of your bond. Valari bowed. We are ready. Daniel tried to bow, but it came out awkward. He gave a small wave instead. Hi! Murmurs ran through the crowd. The judge continued. The trial of unity shall test your hearts, your minds, and your spirits. If your bond is true, you will pass. If not, the bond shall break and both shall face the consequences. Daniel gulped. No pressure. The floor lit up with symbols. A soft hum filled the air. The trial had begun. First test. The mirror of Truth, the symbols on the floor glowed bright. The ground beneath Daniel's feet changed. He was suddenly alone, standing in a strange space filled with mist. A tall mirror floated in front of him. His reflection smiled back, but it was different. It looked stronger, sharper, confident. Not the real Daniel. A voice echoed. Look closely. See yourself as you are and as you pretend to be, Daniel. Stared into the mirror. He saw his fears, being weak, being ordinary, being left behind. He saw himself failing, alone, forgotten. He stepped back. This is stupid. Face it, the voice whispered. He closed his eyes. I'm not a hero. I'm not a warrior. I fix cars. That's all. But then, the mirror changed. It showed him saving a child from a falling shelf, helping a stranger fix their bike, standing in front of Valari, ready to protect her. He opened his eyes. I may be simple, he said, but I don't give up. I don't run, and I don't leave people behind. The mist faded. He had passed. Second test. The flame. Of fear now, Daniel stood in a narrow tunnel made of black stone. Fire burned along the walls. The air was hot and heavy. A beast appeared from the fire. It was tall and terrifying, horned, with red eyes and sharp teeth. It growled and stepped forward. Daniel's legs shook. The voice returned. Face your fear. Show your courage. The beast roared and rushed at him. Daniel looked around. No weapons, no armor. Just him. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and shouted, Do your worst! The beast stopped. Its body faded like smoke. The fire cooled. He had stood his ground. He had passed again. Third test. The trial of trust now. Daniel found himself back in the floating arena, but it looked different. Valari stood on one side. Daniel stood on the other. Between them was a deep, glowing pit. A narrow bridge appeared, just wide enough for one person. It looked unstable. The high judge's voice echoed. You must both cross the bridge, but only together. Valari looked at Daniel. We must walk as one. He nodded. All right, step by step. They moved slowly, carefully, each watching the other. The bridge shook with every step. Halfway across, the light beneath them flared. Suddenly, a voice whispered in Daniel's mind. She is using you. She only needs you for honor. She will leave you when this is over. He stopped. Valari turned. What's wrong? Daniel looked into her eyes. Tell me the truth. Is this real for you? Valari stepped closer. I came here expecting nothing. But I see your heart. And it is good. This bond may have started by accident. But now I choose it. He smiled. So do I. They finished crossing the bridge, together. The judges stood. Lights burst into the sky. They had passed the trial of unity. After the trial, Daniel was taken to a large hall filled with music and strange food. The Thalorians celebrated with glowing drinks and floating dances. Daniel tried to enjoy it, but he felt tired, mentally and physically. Valari stayed close to him. They sat on a high platform overlooking the crowd. You did well, she said. He smiled. I thought I'd trip and fall into the fire. You did better than many warriors, she replied. Daniel looked at the crowd. Do they accept me now? Valari paused. Some do. Some never will. But their voices don't matter. The bond is real. Daniel nodded. Thanks for not giving up on me. Valari looked at him softly. I see more in you with each step we take. You are stronger than you know. Later that night, as the stars filled the sky above Thalor, Daniel walked. Through the palace gardens alone. He needed air and time to think. The lights of the city below shimmered like a sea of stars. Strange plants glowed around him. The air was cool and calm. Then, a shadow moved behind him. Daniel turned quickly. A tall figure stepped out from behind a tree. It was a Thalorian man, dressed in black armor. "You do not belong here," the man said coldly. Daniel stood still. "I passed the trial." "That means nothing to me. Valari was meant to bond with one of her own, not some dirt world. Human." Daniel clenched his fists. "I didn't ask for this, but I'm not backing down." The man's eyes narrowed. "Then you are a problem, and problems must be removed." He pulled out a small weapon. Before Daniel could move, a voice rang out, sharp and full of power. "Step away from him." Valari appeared from the shadows, holding a glowing spear. The man growled. "This is not your concern, princess." "It is," she said. "He is my bonded. You threaten him, you answer to me." The man hesitated, then vanished into the night. Daniel breathed heavily. "Thanks." Valari stepped closer. "You will face more of that. There are those who still want the bond broken." Daniel nodded. "Then they're going to be disappointed." Valari smiled. "Good." As they walked back to the palace together, Daniel looked at her and said, "So, what's next?" She looked at the stars. "The bond has passed the trial, but now a greater danger is coming." "What do you mean?" Valari's face grew serious. "There are enemies of my people, ones who hate the bond and what it means. They will not stop until it is destroyed." Daniel frowned. "Well, they picked the wrong mechanic to mess with." Valari laughed softly. "Indeed." And as they entered the palace, side by side, a new part of their journey was just beginning. The bright skies of Thalor hid a growing danger. Daniel Carter stood beside Valari on the balcony of the palace. The purple clouds floated slowly below them, but Daniel's mind was heavy. The peace of the planet was fragile, and the enemies were closer than anyone guessed. Valari's blue eyes scanned the stars. "The Draxith are coming," Daniel frowned. "Who are the Draxith?" "They are an ancient rival species," Valari explained. "They believe the Xylarian bond is a weakness. They want to break it and claim the Empire's power for themselves." Daniel rubbed his face. "So, they don't like me because of the bond?" "Exactly," Valari said. "Because you are human and bonded to me, they see it as a threat." "A disgrace! They want to destroy the bond and take me!" The palace suddenly shook. Sirens wailed. Valari grabbed Daniel's arm. "They have begun their attack." Outside, dark warships appeared in the sky, massive, jagged, and glowing with red energy. The Draxith fleet had arrived. The palace guards rushed to defend the city. Daniel and Valari ran to the command room. The room was filled with holograms of ships and battlefields. Officers shouted orders. Valari stepped forward. "Prepare the defense. Protect the city and me." Daniel looked at the holograms and saw the enemy ships closing fast. "Is there anything I can do?" Valari thought for a moment. "Your skills might help. The Draxith ships use ancient engines. Your mechanic knowledge could give us an edge." Daniel nodded. "I'm in." Valari took Daniel to a large hangar where the Thalorian starships were docked. The ships were beautiful, sleek and shining, but some had damage. Daniel examined a small fighter ship. The engine looked strange, but similar to engines he had seen on Earth. He worked quickly, tightening bolts and adjusting circuits. His hands moved like they knew exactly what to do. "Can you make it faster?" Valari asked. Daniel smiled. "I can try." Minutes later, the engine roared louder, and the ship's lights blinked brighter. Valari watched with surprise. "You are clever." Daniel shrugged. "I fix things. That's what I do." The battle began. Draxith warships fired powerful red beams. The sky lit with explosions. Thalorian ships fired back with blue energy weapons. Daniel sat in the pilot seat of the fighter ship. Valari was beside him in a larger cruiser. "Ready?" Valari asked. He nodded. "Let's do this." The fighter zoomed through the sky, weaving between enemy blasts. Daniel's quick thinking saved his ship more than once. He noticed the Draxith. Ships had weak points near their engines. Using the fighter's weapons, he targeted those spots. One by one, enemy ships exploded. Valari called over the comms, "Good work, Daniel. Keep it up." But then, a sudden alarm sounded. Daniel's ship shook violently. "Hit!" he yelled. The fighter lost power and began to fall. He activated emergency systems and ejected just before the ship crashed into a forest outside the city. Daniel landed hard but alive. He looked up and saw a Draxith boarding ship descending. The Draxith soldiers captured Daniel quickly. Inside their dark ship, he was taken to a cold cell. His heart pounded. "What do you want from me?" A tall Draxith commander stepped forward. His eyes burned with hatred. "You, human, are the key to breaking the bond. If we capture you, the Xylarian Empire will fall." Daniel clenched his fists. "I'm not giving up." The commander laughed. "We will see." Meanwhile, Valari was furious. She gathered her commanders. "We must rescue Daniel. The bond is not only for me, it is for all of us." The Thalorian fleet prepared a rescue mission. In the Draxith ship, Daniel used his skills again. He studied the control panel and found weak spots. With quick hands, he disabled the ship's core engines. Alarms blared. "Impossible!" shouted the commander. Daniel sent a distress signal to Valari's fleet. Outside, Thalorian ships closed in fast. Valari led the attack with her cruiser. The battle was fierce. The Draxith fought hard. Valari's forces destroyed many ships but lost some. 2. Then, Valari's ship locked onto the Draxith commander's vessel. She ordered, "Prepare to board." Daniel's signal helped the fleet find the enemy ship. Valari and her elite guards boarded the Draxith ship. They fought through dark corridors. Valari's spear glowed, cutting through the enemy. Daniel fought beside her, surprising everyone with his courage. Finally, they reached Daniel's cell. Valari smashed the door open. Daniel smiled. "Took you long enough?" She laughed softly. "I never give up." Together, they fought their way out and returned to their cruiser. Back in space, Valari looked at Daniel with new respect. "You are not just my life mate," she said. "You are my equal," Daniel smiled. "Thanks. I think I'm starting to believe it." The battle was over, but the threat remained. Valari gathered her council. "The Draxith will come again. We must be ready." Daniel nodded. "I'll help, however I can." Valari placed a hand on his shoulder. "Together, we will protect our bond and our worlds." Daniel looked up at the stars. The simple ring he bought had changed his life forever. He was no longer just a mechanic on Earth. He was part of something bigger, something that could unite two worlds, and he was ready for whatever came next. The skies of Thalor blazed with colors as the day of the final ceremony arrived. Daniel Carter stood beside Valari, dressed in a formal silver robe that shimmered in the sunlight. The air buzzed with excitement and tension. Thousands had gathered to witness the completion of the ancient Xylarian unity bond. Daniel looked around the floating city, its towers gleaming, the purple sky stretching endlessly above. Despite the grandeur, his heart beat with nervousness. This moment would decide everything: his future, Valari's honor, and the fate of two worlds linked by their bond. Valari stood tall and proud next to him. Her blue skin sparkled softly under the sun, and her eyes held a mix of strength and warmth. She reached out and took Daniel's hand. "Today, we become one." Daniel squeezed her hand, feeling a strange but wonderful energy flowing between them. "I never imagined my life would lead here." "Neither did I," Valari smiled. "But the bond is stronger than we knew." The High Judge appeared on the great stage, his silver robes flowing in the light breeze. His voice rang loud and clear across the city. People of Thaler and honored guests from many worlds, today we witness the sacred unity bond, a bond that connects hearts, minds, and souls. Let all see the strength of this union. Daniel felt the weight of thousands of eyes on him. Some still doubted him, but many had come to respect his courage and honesty. The ceremony began with ancient chants, the language strange but beautiful. Symbols of light danced around Daniel and Valari, wrapping them in glowing patterns. The bond's power pulsed through the air. Daniel felt his mind stretch and open. Memories of Earth, simple moments with Lily, the ring in the pawn shop, all mixed with visions of Thalor, Valari's people, and the great history of their empire. It was like two lives, two worlds, were becoming one. After the ritual, Daniel and Valari stood before the crowd, linked by the bond now shining visibly on. Their hands, two rings glowing with bright light. The crowd erupted in cheers. Many came forward to offer gifts and blessings. Among them was a small girl, no older than Lily, with bright green eyes and a shy smile. She stepped to Daniel and held out a tiny flower made of crystal light. "For you," she said softly. "From my family. May your bond bring peace." Daniel accepted it with a smile. "Thank you," Valari whispered. "You see? They have come to accept you." Daniel looked at the crowd, feeling a deep warmth. Maybe this is just the beginning. Days passed, and Daniel learned more about Thalor and its people. He found that despite their differences, they shared hopes and fears much like humans. He worked alongside Valari, helping with technical projects and sharing stories about Earth. Valari, in turn, enjoyed the simple joys Daniel showed her, walking in gardens, fixing small machines, and laughing at Earth jokes he shared. One evening, they sat on the balcony overlooking the glowing city. Daniel said, "You know, I never thought I'd find a home beyond Earth." Valari smiled. "And I never thought I'd find a partner who sees me for who I am, beyond titles and armor." They sat quietly, watching stars twinkle. The bond between them had grown stronger, not just by ceremony, but by trust, respect, and friendship. But peace was not complete. The Draxith threat still lingered. One day, a messenger arrived with urgent news. "The Draxith have gathered a larger fleet," the messenger said. "They plan a full invasion." Valari stood firm. "Then we must prepare. This time we fight not just for us, but for the future of our worlds." Daniel nodded. "I'll help, whatever it takes." Together, they led the preparation for battle, uniting Thalorian forces and working on new technology inspired by Daniel's Earth skills. When the Draxith fleet arrived, the sky filled with warships once again. But this time, the Xylarian fleet was ready. Daniel flew a fighter, leading attacks with Valari commanding the main cruiser. The battle was fierce. Energy beams flashed, ships exploded, and the sky roared with power. But Daniel's courage and quick thinking made the difference. He found weak points in the enemy ships and led daring strikes that turned the tide. Valari's spear cut through enemy lines, inspiring her people. Together they fought not as alien and human, but as equals and partners. After the final victory, the galaxy watched the news spread. Two worlds, once strangers, now united by a bond stronger than war. Daniel and Valari became symbols of hope and unity. The simple ring that started it all was placed in the Great Museum of Thalor, a reminder of how even the smallest things can change the stars. In the quiet, moments after the celebrations, Daniel and Valari stood on the palace balcony once more. Daniel took her hand. "What now?" Valari smiled. "Now, we build a future. Together." Daniel looked at the stars and then at her. "I'm ready." The bond glowed softly, connecting their souls across worlds, and in that moment, the human mechanic and the alien princess knew that their story was only just beginning.